This is shuttle launch control. We've got flight crew having breakfast. There's mission specialist Ray Seddon, payload specialist Millie Hughes-Fulford, making her first trip into space today. Mission specialist Drew Gaffney. He's also flying on the shuttle for the first time. We've got mission specialist Jim Bajan. He's making his second flight into space today. Mission specialist Tamara Jernigan. She's flying for the first time. And Commander Brian O'Connor. He's flying for the second time. Pilot Sid Gutierrez is flying for the first time. Columbia. This is the first shuttle flight dedicated to medical research. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 3 hours and holding. We've got the flight crew in the suit-up room at the operations and checkout building. Commander Brian O'Connor. He's a Marine Corps colonel, flying for the second time today. Getting ready to do a suit integrity check for the commander and the pilot. There's pilot Sid Gutierrez. He's an Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. He's flying for the first time today. O'Connor and Gutierrez ready to go. We're just in the weather briefing that was conducted. Mission Specialist Jim Bajan now strapping on last-minute items. These are items the crew will take with them on board the orbiter during the flight. While they're in the room here, they do stuff their pockets and with items they'll be taking on board with them. Bajan is flying for the second time today. A lot of activity going on in the suit-up room today. Here's Mission Specialist Ray Seddon. She's flying for the second time today. While the crew is getting into their suits, they do have a suit integrity check that's performed. The suits are inflated and the leak rate is measured. Mission Specialist Tamara Jernigan. She's flying for the first time today on board the shuttle. Mission Specialist, Payload Specialist Millie Hughes-Fulford is being assisted right now. She's stowing last-minute items in her pockets, many pockets on the spacesuit. The two payload specialists will be having medical personnel assist them these last few minutes while they're getting suited up. They'll be connecting a portable monitoring unit into a biomedical port on the right leg of the spacesuit. Physiological monitors have been placed on various areas of the payload specialist. And this is payload specialist Drew Gaffney. From these monitors that are located on various areas of the payload specialist, they will measure blood pressure and heart rate information. This will be fed into the portable unit that Drew Gaffney's now pointing to. Got a handheld device there that he can use to control and monitor the equipment. This information on blood pressure and heart rate will be monitored and recorded in flight. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 2 hours, 54 minutes and counting. We've got the flight crew parting at the operations and checkout building. And Commander Brian O'Connor leading the crew out. Mission Specialist Tamara Jernigan, Ray Seddon, Jim Bajan, Sid Gutierrez, Mary Hughes Fulford, and Drew Gaffney.
Houston, Columbia, MS3.
Houston, Columbia, PS1.
Houston, Columbia, PS2.
Okay, we've got all of you loud and clear. OTC, CGNC.
Go ahead.
This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 1 hour, 21 minutes and counting.
Copy. Yes, ma'am, 142.
Now you're still on 212.
And that's complete. OTC can give me. NTD SRO 212. Go ahead, SRO. You have a final range clear to launch. I copy. Launch director, copy. I copy. And GLS, we will not hold the clock at T-minus 5 minutes.
I copy that. It's been cleared.
APU pre-start's complete.
The orbiter flight control surfaces are being moved through a pre-programmed pattern, and the main engines are being positioned for launch. Retraction of the gaseous oxygen vent hood is now underway. T-minus 2 minutes, 20 seconds and counting.
flight crew, close and lock your visors and initiate O2 flow. Have a good trip.
Roger that.
T-minus 2 minutes and counting.
Caution warning, memory clear is complete.
Copy. CLS is go for ET LH2 pressurization.
Liquid hydrogen replenishment is being terminated, and the hydrogen tank is being pressurized for flight. Crew has locked their visors for flight. Now less than 2 minutes away from launch. Today's launch marks the 41st launch for the shuttle program and the third shuttle flight this year. We've got 3 engines ready for flight. T-minus 1 minute, 15 seconds. All systems are go for launch for Columbia's 11th space flight. T-minus 1 minute and counting. T-minus 40 seconds and counting. Coming up on the T-minus 31 second mark when we have a go for auto sequence start. T-minus 31 seconds. Columbia's 4 redundant computers have primary control of critical vehicle functions for the remainder of the count. T-minus 20 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9. We have a go for engine start. 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of Columbia on the first dedicated medical research flight.
Full program, Houston.
Roger, roll, Columbia.
Houston now controlling, roll maneuvers underway. Maneuver complete. Columbia now heading in a head-down attitude on course for a 39-degree orbit. Engines now throttling down as Columbia prepares to pass through the area of maximum dynamic pressure. Columbia now at 20,000 feet, downrange distance 1 nautical mile. Engines now throttling back up.
Columbia, go at throttle up.
Roger, go at throttle up.
1 minute, 20 seconds. Columbia now 55,000 feet altitude, downrange distance 6 nautical miles, traveling 2,150 feet per second. Good hydraulic systems aboard the orbiter, good fuel cells providing electrical power. Columbia's 3 main engines still at 104%, performing well. Altitude now 90,000 feet. Downrange distance now 15 nautical miles, velocity 3,400 feet per second. Standing by for separation of the solid rocket boosters. SRB separation confirmed. Columbia now at 174,000 feet. Downrange distance 34 nautical miles, standing by for the performance call.
Columbia, performance is nominal.
Roger.
Columbia's first stage performance is nominal. Time 2 minutes 30 seconds into the flight. Altitude now 204,000 feet. Downrange distance 46 nautical miles. Velocity 4,700 feet per second. All 3 main engines still at 104%. Good hydraulics and good electrical systems aboard the orbiter.
Columbia, 2-engine Ben Guerrier.
Roger, 2-engine Ben.
Columbia can now reach the primary landing site in Morocco should one engine fail. However, all three still at 104%. Altitude 265,000 feet, velocity 5,500 feet per second. Columbia now 78 nautical miles from the launch site. Auxiliary power units providing hydraulic power to the vehicle still performing well. Three minutes, 45 seconds into the flight. Columbia now 307,000 feet altitude, downrange distance 109 nautical miles, traveling at 6,600 feet per second.
Roger, stand by.
This camera view from the camera B, this camera is mounted on the aft bulkhead of the orbiter. Before it pans toward the front of the vehicle, this view is of the aft bulkhead. In the center of the picture is one of the blankets that's mounted on the aft bulkhead. That blanket has come loose, and flight controllers are discussing that.
This is Mission Control Houston as Columbia crosses over the southeastern African coast. We have crew members in the Space Lab
And
module.
Columbia, Houston, we're with you in the lab. You look great. Hi to you.
Mission Specialist Tammy Jernigan in the foreground and Mission Specialist Jim Bajan in the background are beginning to activate intercommunication systems between the module and crew cabin, as well as air-to-ground.
Marcia, just to check, since you weren't getting a picture, I called up the Space Lab TV on my monitors, and I've got a good picture on my monitors, too.
Okay, it was a configuration here. We're getting a good picture. Thanks, Ray.
And entering the laboratory module now, Mission Specialist number 3, Ray Seddon, bringing with her a locker full of flight data file and materials the crew will require for activation of the experiments in the laboratory module. laboratory module for the first time. Payload specialist number 1, Drew Gaffney, configured with a white harness. On the left, Tammy Jernigan, mission specialist number 2, assisting with procedure call-outs as the crew completes the setup of the Space Lab module. Right now working on the atmosphere storage and control system, which works with the orbiter pressurization control system to assure the proper air mixture flow into and out of the cabin and laboratory. This is Mission Control Houston as we cross the equator in Columbia and crew begin the 4th orbit of this very young 9-day mission. We're taking television from the payload bay cameras aboard Columbia. This one from the aft port camera, camera Bravo.
Columbia, Coil O2 tank, Houston, check, complete the results for nominal.
Thanks, Sid.
We're taking a look here at some thermal blanket material on the aft bulkhead of the payload bay, which appears to have come unseated at some time during between launch and opening of the payload bay doors. One of the leading hypotheses is that air pockets or air traps behind the panels forced an unseating of the thermal blankets during payload bay venting prior to opening the doors. Without any instrumentation or photo documentation to absolutely confirm that, though, that's pure conjecture, but appears to be the leading theory at
We've
this
got
point.
the payload bay cameras now, and we're looking at your aft bulkhead. If you want to watch what we're looking at, it's pretty interesting.
Okay.
We're looking at camera Bravo right now.
This is Mission Control Houston as we've been surveying the aft bulkhead thermal blankets, trying to get better documentation of the unseating of several of the blankets on that aft bulkhead. It's been noted that a couple of protrusions along the rim of the payload bay at the top of the bulkhead those protrusions are getting some attention from flight controllers who don't really understand exactly what those could be. Flight controllers are looking to get an assist from the crew if they can get into the Space Lab module and point their camcorder out the aft cone port and provide us with some alternative views. Let's hope that they can get a better handle on just what it is that's protruding both in the center of this frame as well as just to the right and above that protrusion. It looks as if there are two long rod-like objects that have been lifted from the edge of the payload bay aft bulkhead.
This is the Payload Operations Control Center, Huntsville. We're standing by to begin some of the major science operations for today. Just a short time ago, the CIC, the Crew Interface Coordinator, talked with the Space Lab module for the first time. That's a face we'll see a lot. That was Gary Renfro, who established contact with the Space Lab at about 5 hours, 13 minutes. Meanwhile, back aboard the module, we now see Ray Seddon, Jim Bajan, and Millie Hughes-Fulford working in the module as they get it ready to go for the science operations to come. Right now, Millie Hughes-Fulford is at the workbench. Next to that is the RAF, the Research Animal Holding Facility. Also in that general area is where the jellyfish are located. There's a variety of science equipment also on that side of the module, and there are also some refrigerators and freezers that they'll be using for storage of blood samples. Among the things that will be taking place today will include some metabolic work. They're going to be taking blood samples fairly frequently through the afternoon, and those samples are very, very important for the work to be done to try to discern some of the changes that take place in the body, some of the adaptation that occurs on the first day of flight. Across the way from where the crew members are now focusing their attention on the other side of the module, there are a variety of units that help them keep up with what's happening right across from where Millie Hughes Fulford is at the moment. There is a control center that includes some monitoring equipment. There are some video switching pieces of gear over on that side of the module. There also are some black boxes that have to do with the echocardiograph system. And as the crew members work with those various devices, we'll try to keep you informed what they're doing and where they're at. As you can tell, they're still in the business of getting the module set up for housekeeping and for science work. And we'll be back to give you more details of what they're up to as we get closer into the work that will be taking place this afternoon. At 5 days, 23 hours into the flight of Columbia, this is Payload Operations Control.
Space Lab Huntsville in receipt of live TV at this time.
Thanks, Rick. So, I'm getting ready to take some blood pressures and then collect an echocardiogram on myself.
Copy. You're commencing blood pressure checks at this time. Call us when you're done.
And Columbia, Houston, we're with you in the lab.
Thanks, Marshall. Huntsville, Space Lab.
Space Lab Huntsville.
We just completed all the PAH injections, and now we're at a late schedule, but we're back on track.
Space Lab Huntsville, copy. You just completed PAH at 43 and back on the timeline.
The injections under discussion are part of the tracers that are injected into the crew member's blood as part of the metabolic procedures. They have been taking quite a few blood samples on this first day of the flight, and part of the protocol also calls for them to inject tracers in the blood. That'll help with the studies of how the blood and metabolism of the crew members are adapting to the weightless conditions that they're now experiencing.